So this is a video uploaded by Pig. I rant about the difficulties with coming up with any changes for a game that Blizzard refuses to fix basic bugs in, let alone when the arcade and the... Okay, I see. So why patching StarCraft is a nightmare and Blizzard sucks.
I've just been reading all the comments on my video about Hearthstone's balance patch, and it was kind of cool, some really good insight. Some people speaking nonsense, as to be expected. Some things got me riled up because they were actually really good ideas that I'm like, well, I just know Blizzard's never going to be able to put these through because they're hopeless. And it kind of started to get my anger just riled up, just thinking about, you know, making StarCraft as great as it could possibly be, patching the game.
What's kind of interesting to me, right from the start, I have not been in contact with anything Blizzard related for a while. Back in the day, there were a lot of folks that worked at Blizzard that would reach out to community people and they would actually try to help out and, you know, keep people in the loop and all that. Not really a thing anymore for a while now. And I know that Pig has been a lot more active in, like, the StarCraft 2 Community Balance Council, and it seems like he's been talking to Blizzard a little bit more. At least from what I understand. I don't know. Actually
fixing bugs, actually testing things and being able to upload maps to the arcade. There's a lot of things that piss me off right now.
You know, one of the things that pisses me off that I think is something that needs to be fixed a long time, like it should have been fixed a long time ago, is the Master League bug. I get people that message me every day that say, hey, I have never played StarCraft before, but I just did my placement matches for the first time and I got put into Master League. Am I a secret StarCraft god? And most of the time, I don't have the heart to tell people that this is a bug. It's been a bug in the game for a long time. They fixed it for a little bit, but then it came back again. I don't know what it is, but basically, it just gives you a Master League border with like 2K MMR. Really, the only thing you can look at that will give you a reliable understanding of your ranking is MMR, because all of the borders around people's portraits are effectively bugged. At least, like, if you see somebody on a Master League border, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're Master League, which is really stupid. So what do you do when somebody reaches out to you, man, and like, hey, I just got Master League, that's awesome, and I never know what to say, because I don't want to be that guy. Like, I have been that guy in the past. But I don't want to be that guy who's like, actually, your accomplishment is meaningless. Like, I don't want to, anyways.
StarCraft and how it's being managed. All right, guys, so I've been trying to breach this topic for a while, but I haven't known how to do it. Luckily, Hearthstone's kind of come up with these proposed balance changes, and I've gone,
yeah,
okay.
So I also talked about the balance changes that Hearthstone proposed, right? They were pretty good across the board. I didn't agree with all of it, but yeah, some of it is nice.
Hey, this is a good starting off point. Let's talk about that. So let's actually talk about this through, at least to get into it, the lens of StarCraft 2 balance. Like right now, for the last few months, I've been thinking of StarCraft 2 balance, and I've kind of had three big pathways for balancing, or patching, I should say, StarCraft, and making the game as interesting as possible. The first one, very conservative, very similar to what Hearthstone did, right? Small changes, address strategies that are just being seen way too much. Like, oh, we see 8 racks, like 50-60% of games in TVZ. All right, we should, you know, see if we can make it so there's more viable alternatives. Balancing, mostly focused on trying to make the game as interesting as possible, range of strategies, exciting gameplay, right? So I actually had a lot of overlap with Hearthstone's changes, but also a bunch that were different and my own ones. We can talk about that later. Now, the second pathway is my anti-balance council pathway patch. And that one is all about basically removing all of the big nerfs that the Balance Council's done to things like, you know, for example, getting rid of shield battery overcharge, nerfing the heck out of disruptors, nerfing broodlords. Well, they nerfed the broodling 3 times, which nerfs the broodlord.
Okay, so the way that StarCraft 2 balance has always been done, first off, we had Blizzard running the show, right, for many, many years. Specifically, David Kim. David Kim was kind of like the face of balance. He was the guy that was in charge of everything multiplayer related. And he kind of like stamped his face on balance for like a decade or so. And everybody was like, yeah, screw you, David Kim. You're the reason my race sucks. It's not me that's bad at the game. It's your design principles, right? Rather than taking responsibility, people would like not even blame hacks or maps or any. They would just straight up blame David Kim. Right? And then some time ago, Blizzard kind of gave up on everything StarCraft related, but they didn't completely AFK. They basically had a community balance council where somebody from Blizzard would occasionally take some of the changes that the community balance council had decided on, and then they would go ahead and publish that. So there's a lot of people in the community in StarCraft 2 right now that are like, yo, the Community Balance Council did a terrible job. They did such a poor job, actually. We need to change everything. Now, mind you, the patch that Blizzard left with was the balance patch where Void Rays were horribly overpowered. That was what Blizzard had cooked up in like all their years of balancing the game. Obviously, there were moments when it was awesome, moments where it was great. But there were also moments where I didn't really like playing the game at all, and honestly, I took a long break from laddering when the Void Ray meta was as prevalent as it was, because it was just way overtuned and not very fun at all. So a lot of people are like, yo, the Balance Council does a terrible job, but let's not pretend that Blizzard has always done such an amazing job either. And I think that's kind of one of the big things to keep in mind. It's really hard to balance a game. It is much easier to complain about the balance than it is to balance. So in general, it's very tricky. Now, because Blizzard is basically 99% AFK from StarCraft these days, and I really hope that they're going to come back to it at some point in the future, the only way that they are really like willing to update the game or to patch the game or to create balance adjustments for the game is by small little value changes that you can effectively do directly in the StarCraft 2 editor. So for example, I would love to see new units added. I would love to see a Leviathan for Zerg, or maybe like Scourge added onto the ladder, or the Thor removed in favor of a Goliath, or something like that. That would be really cool, but it's never going to happen. Because that's too much work, and it's not really something that Blizzard can jump in with. It seems like in general, they're also only able to look at StarCraft like once in a blue moon. So if there are very drastic changes made to the game, and they happen to be horribly overpowered or leaning one way or another, there's a good shot that Blizzard isn't going to look at anything for a long time to come. At least it kind of feels like, you know, they have left to get milk and they haven't come back. Because of that, I think making small changes is probably really the only realistic way to go. Until, if maybe one day this is the case, until Blizzard fundamentally changes something that they do about StarCraft. Rather than being like 99% AFK, if they end up being like 50% AFK, say they like have like 2 dedicated community people on it, maybe we could end up with a better situation. But hey, thank you, Tasteless. Thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. I am just watching Pig's latest upload, titled "Why Patching StarCraft is a Nightmare. Blizzard Sucks." I think this will be an interesting video, and it's gonna be a little bit. It's gonna be a rant. Yeah. We went straight from the RSL to this. Hope you guys had a good stream. Welcome, everybody.
The main thing the Broodlord does is spawn Broodlings, nerfing Banelings multiple times, -5 hit points, you know, obviously the damage, nerfing libs like snipe damage.
So I think, okay, so just to round up my thought real quick, I think the way, and I don't really know, right, but I'm pretty sure the way that, like, Blizzard functions at this point is that there is, like, a classic games team of a bunch of developers that are in charge of about a half dozen games. So everything from like, probably even like Warcraft 1 and 2 that they've recently remastered, all the way to like Diablo 3. And in between we have like StarCraft 1, we have Warcraft 3, we have Heroes of the Storm, right? And it seems to me that there's like a very small group of people that have to work on all of those games. And they are given like 5 minutes for every game once a month. That's kind of what it feels like, and it's... especially with a game as complex as StarCraft 2, it's just not easily managed. Maybe it's one guy. I'm not sure. I don't know.
My EMP radius has kind of got buffed and then nerfed. It's gone all over the place. You know, Liberators, lots of different things. Essentially, there's lots of cool, fun toys that have been nerfed, and trying to say, okay, let's remove all of those, go back to how things were before Balance Council, but keep all the quality of life changes and try to just keep some interesting little changes here and there.
I think that's stupid.
Take away people's fun toys and try to basically, this one to explore is a path of thinking about how do we manage to explore StarCraft 2 balance in a way where right now it's meant to be the community that kind of influences the balance. The community, in my feeling, is overwhelmingly saying, the Balance Council's bad. We don't like their changes. They've been negative. And
I think the community will be overwhelmingly negative with anything balance related. I don't remember a time, and I've been following this game actively for a decade and a half. I don't remember a single period in StarCraft 2's history where the community was like, huh, the game is awesome right now. I'm loving this. Generally, I think it is a very vocal minority that will be complaining. It is exactly like the way that politics work. People will always complain about whatever is going on because, again, it is much easier to shift the responsibility of your losses to something external than it is to like internalize and actually think about improving and all that. So I don't think people are ever going to be positive. I don't think the Balance Council did a perfect job. I think some of the changes could be reverted. In general, I think the game is a little bit too like stable right now, especially for Zerg, where Zerg just doesn't have a lot of early game variety. Zerg has kind of been turned into a punching bag, which is a little bit sad, but you know, like some of those small changes could be reverted or you could make new things, but it's frustrating to me that I always see people complaining. Like first it was David Kim and then it was just Blizzard in general and then it was the Balance Council. Like there will always be people complaining, and whatever is going to be in charge next, if there is going to be something that will be in charge next, people will complain about that too. Let's be real. People will always complain.
It'd be a chance to go, okay, let's go look at what the game's like without most of those changes, especially the ones that people have the most negative feelings towards. Now, my third and final pathway for StarCraft 2 patching is my crazy patch list. And essentially, it's a bunch of changes. It's big, fun, risk-taking gambles. It does crazy stuff like removing Warp Gate, taking Nexus Recall out. I just think, you know, all the things that just feel kind of bullshit and weird, just take them out of the game. But you buff
Make it Brood War again.
Protoss Gateway units. Instead, make them more StarCraft 1 style.
Yeah.
Go for it. Give it a go. See how it is. Removing the Queen from the game as this, like, one slow, chunky defensive crutch that is a big reason why Zerg ends up sitting in their corner just touching themselves for 90% of the game, right? In the early
That is what I do 90% of my game long, yeah.
the game, at least. You know,
That's why my APM is so low compared to many players.
You've just got this incredibly impossible to kill meat sack of units, shoots up, shoots down, does everything, but it can't move off creep. It can't be aggressive. It's so naturally unexciting. Get the Queen out of the game. Buff lava.
Yeah, so this last option is cool. I would love to see more drastic changes, but it's never going to happen. Not with the way that Blizzard currently functions.
Production, because we don't have lava inject necessarily anymore. You know, find some way around it. Buff lava production. Maybe tier 1 Hydralisk. Give it the StarCraft 1 Hydralisk to replace that, so you've actually got mobile anti-air. It's not just Queens and Spores. You know, that would be cool. Remove Widow Mines for Terran. Add Vultures to replace them. I think it's a much more interesting unit, and it feels a little bit more fair to play against, in my opinion, as well, even though it's still super powerful. This is a crazy list. Now, before you guys, I'm sure you're already like, this would be bad because of this. Before we even talk about it, this is not the point of this video. We have those three really different pathways. And the reason I have those three is because I do believe the community should balance StarCraft. Yes. I think that's what the whole thing has been, is, hey, we're going to take community input. And there have been changes that have been based off of the community, right? Widowmine got nerfed multiple times. Ghost got that extra supply, right? To a lot of Protoss players, and people just watching like, man, these Baneling spams are really
Guys,
silly.
can I just say I still hate that the Ghost is 3 supply? It's such an inelegant change. It's honestly one of the blunt... they could have been way more elegant with nerfing the Ghost. Instead, we just, like, fucking hit it with a hammer and made it 3 supply rather than 2.
You know, let's nerf the Baneling a bunch of times, right? And now I think a lot of people want to go back and like, where are the Zerg players, man? What have we done? I think that's, you know, good to explore all these different changes, but I think it's also it's really good to see how they work. And I really wanted to create mods for each one of these changes, let people play them, let the community play them, and based on my own feeling of what's good as well as what the community vibed with the most, trying to basically campaign for that and say, hey, if enough people are behind this, let's push for this. Let's see if we can get pros on board, even though we know they're super risk averse and they all are just going to want to go for the conservative one naturally.
So this is another thing with the Balance Council, right? And as to why the game feels very stable right now. People are very... So a lot of the pro gamers were part of the Balance Council. And if your livelihood depends on the stability of a game, it makes sense that you don't really want to make crazy changes, right? So you don't want to be too... Like, you want to be very risk-averse. I guess that's the perfect way to word it. So, The balance council, like the community balance council right now, is no more. I'm not sure exactly what the plan is moving forward, but I guess if we're vocal enough, things may change at some point. But there is really no clear-cut path right now.
See if I can help convince them and say, hey guys, you got to make StarCraft fair and fun and feel good for the low-level players. You've also got to make it exciting for people to go, oh, there's all these new changes. On the crazy set of changes, we could also do things like bring in campaign units, right? Oh, you get Reavers now, you get Dragoons, you get bloody Scourge, Zerg, you get Sky Banelings. Why not? You know, just mixing things in, maybe even co-op units as well, right? But obviously that's a crazy
As a YouTuber, that excites me. But
there's different people who prefer this, different people prefer that. And the point was, let's get in there. And the worst thing that happens
exactly. No, that is 100% it. So what Sajek, I don't know how to pronounce your username, but what you're saying is exactly right. We've basically now arrived from like an aristocracy, right, where we had the community balance council, to now what is going to be effectively a democracy, where as the community, we just have to magically dream up a bunch of changes, and that's gonna make the game better? I don't know, dude. I think a democracy is a great system for many things, but I don't know if it's ideal for StarCraft 2 balance. We need a supreme ruler. That's what we need. Maybe give Pig the keys to the Senate.
Make a mod with some cool changes. We play some matches on it. I get some content.
We need a philosopher king.
And we just get to explore. Unfortunately, none of this is possible and none of this even matters. And that's why I've been sitting on these ideas for a few months, twiddling my thumbs, not talking about it.
Yeah.
Now, the reason for that is we can't test things. We cannot put out mods. We cannot put out balanced ideas, suggestions, and patch changes without being able to upload maps to the StarCraft 2 arcade.
So a couple months ago, somebody managed to inject code into the StarCraft 2 arcade, and a bunch of terrible things happened. I don't really want to highlight exactly what happened, but you can imagine. Basically, bad people managed to do bad things in StarCraft 2. Now, you'd imagine Blizzard fixes that. Instead, what they have done, and maybe they are working on fixing it, I'm not sure, but instead what they have done is they basically made it impossible for people to upload custom maps. So right now, you can't upload your own arcade map, you cannot upload a new StarCraft 2 ladder map, you cannot upload anything. Effectively meaning that if you want to run a map tournament, you can't. If you want to run a balance mod, you can't. This has been a thing for about, I want to say 3-4 months maybe at this point. I'm not exactly sure. And I don't, like, again, we have no communication, so we don't know if Blizzard is actually doing anything. I think they might be. For a little bit, they re-enabled it again, I think. There was a patch a few weeks ago that was like several hundred megabytes big, if I recall correctly, that broke all replays. But I think they've once more disabled it since, I don't know, dude. It's really frustrating.
Which is currently disabled. Well, if you guys aren't as deep in the scene, you might be wondering, why is that? Why is uploading to StarCraft 2 disabled? Well, turns out a couple of losers found out a way to exploit a thing in the arcade where they could inject videos and different audio and video files into other people's arcade maps. And they've been showing people some naughty things. All right, guys, well, obviously I'm not going to show any of the actual videos themselves or any of the stuff, but, you know, it became pretty clear. Even if you didn't have it happen yourself, you don't play a lot of arcade, you would have seen Reddit threads like this starting 2 months ago. I saw a mass shooting video.
Whoa. Okay, yeah, we get the gist of it. We get the gist of it. Yes, we understand. Jeez Louise, Pig.
Here's a thread. We're going to update you guys. Oh, look, we've done an update. Live in all regions, which will allow us to filter bad videos. Don't know what that means. That was on May 30th, so that was about 2.5 weeks ago. Everyone went, oh, there's a patch. And people were going, oh, I think it's fixed. It's not fixed. You still can't upload to the arcade. Still doesn't work. And essentially, we have no news on how fast this is progressing. Did this solve anything or not? We do not know. Now, obviously, 5 days...
What's really funny about that Reddit post is that this was posted quite a bit after, so the timeline so far, April 21st, but they posted this in June 3rd. So map publishing from the Galaxy editor disabled April 21st, but then they didn't really post anything about it until June 3rd, which is like, there's just a long time of radio silence. And if you know, like StarCraft, that's not good. That's not ideal.
This is progressing. Did this solve anything or not? We do not know. Now, obviously, 5 days ago, someone on Reddit was going, well, we're doomed. This is never going to get fixed, right? They said, look, there's no way to detect this stuff. It's not going to happen. Blizzard can't afford anyone. They don't want to pay one guy to monitor the report log. They're too lazy to do that. Blizzard doesn't want to spend any money on this. So they're just going to leave the arcade shut down. And basically, this person was just ranting, saying, we're doomed. Arcade's dead. Patches are dead. This is just terrible for the scene. Now, luckily, we did have Reddit Warrior. Battle Warrior is a nice dude. I've seen them around the Reddit before. But they came in and ran defense and tried to be the voice of reason. They said, look, they are working on it. They're testing out more solutions to seal any exploitable loopholes. This lines up with, this is that thread I just showed you of the Blizzard timeline of the activity so far. They said more updates would be happening as they work on addressing the issues. When was this? 16 days ago. There should be some more updates as continued progress is made to prevent further...
Whoa, there was somebody from Blizzard that posted on Reddit?
We don't know how long this will take. And the person saying,
I didn't even know that was a thing, dude.
Guys, the remaining RTS and classic legacy games team devs in Blizzard, it's split between doing patches, PTRs for Heroes of the Storm, Warcraft 3 Remastered. They have to pull devs off that to update SC2 because they don't have enough people internally. And I mean, they've got to run all these games.
So they're doing all of these games. Yeah, it's insane.
Warcraft 2, Warcraft 1, Battle.net Edition, Heart of the Sword.
You know what's crazy about this? Blizzard is owned by Microsoft. Can we look up market cap Microsoft? 3.57 trillion US dollars. That is their market capitalization at this point in time. Why is there one dude? Like, how do we just hire a few people, man? It's not rocket science. Why is this so freaking hard? Just have... I don't understand. Like, how can it be like this for years? How can you not just get somebody? Like, it's money. I understand it costs money. But this is also a terrible look. If you're gonna spend money on keeping the servers on, and I'm not saying they should turn those off, but if you're gonna spend all the money on the server technology, maybe also make sure the games can run. It doesn't seem like... Yeah, so it seems to me that the classic team, right? They just like working on a game like Heroes of the Storm better. Maybe I'm wrong, but Heroes of the Storm gets relatively frequent updates. Maybe, just maybe just get a few people, man. It seems so stupid to have all these classic games just completely wasting away.
Heroes of the Storm.
It really frustrates me. It really frustrates me. It's insanely... unfortunate.
Warcraft 3, and I get it because I feel bad and I don't hate the people who work in the Blizzard Classic Games department. I've spoken to a few of them. They seem like very nice, very overworked people who are forced to do far too many jobs. And you
know what's difficult about this too? It's legacy code. So a lot of these games, it's difficult to hire for, right? Because if you're like able to fix everything between Heroes of the Storm and Warcraft 1, like, those are not modern, engines. It's not easy to actually troubleshoot problems. I get it's hard, but...
But complain about it.
They just also fired everybody over the years, right? They got rid of everyone.
Not from them. I know this because either they're the laziest humans ever, or they don't have enough resources, because I know this because of how ignored basic problems are in StarCraft that just literally never get fixed. So this person running defense also said it took a few months to fix this lobby... inject exploits back in 23 and 2024 when they were first found. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember there were issues around the arcade, but it didn't go as viral as these stories about it. But I remember people were saying, oh, that people are putting dodgy videos in and weird stuff's happening and, all this sort of stuff. Now, interestingly, we had a response who said, you're actually wrong. The 2023 and 2024 injection exploits were never fixed by Blizzard. The last round of injections is actually using the same exploit. The hackers behind the old exploits, they just got bored and stopped doing it for a while. And then they're like, you know what? We feel like putting some Nazi videos in. We should put those in StarCraft. Fixing this bug would require a whole refactor of the client and server code by a team of devs who didn't even write the original code in the first place. That would require a lot of time and effort, probably up to a year in effort and a lot of money as well. But what we're looking at in the best scenario is that they'll do some half-ass fix that doesn't fix the injection issue, shut down the modding scene for like 6 months, and then put it back up with no actual fix.
Exactly.
Yes, the original poster is being overly dramatic.
I think that's likely what's going to happen. There's a lot of very intelligent people in the StarCraft world that work in like software development and all that, right? How in the world, and maybe somebody has an answer for me, how in the world, if you allow user-generated content in your game, do you fact-check all of the content that is being uploaded? How in the world could you prevent terrible videos or photos or things going live in the game on a game that is... Like, the engine for StarCraft 2 was probably developed in, like, 2008, 2009 or so. Yeah, do you want to implement AI into it? Is that what we're going to do if you want to 100% be reliable? I mean, that's never going to happen. It's very freaking hard. Yeah, the way that it's sorted out in StarCraft 2 is by users basically saying, yo, there's something bad going on, and then Blizzard would get the notification, and they would, like, take it out. That's how... Integrating Copilot into StarCraft 2 is way too much work. It's not going to happen. There's no way. It has to be manually reviewed. That's the only way that they could manage this well.
But the situation for the arcade is looking dire, and this is the kind of stuff that kills the desire for hobby modders to do stuff in SC2 and shut down any ongoing support for a bunch of different SC2 arcade mods. I don't know the technical side. I don't know how long Blizzard's going to take to fix things. And they're not really that open about it. They are never open about anything because we don't really hear much from the Blizzard Classic Games department. We don't know what they're doing. We can tell from their behavior. We can rate them and go, you guys aren't doing a great job. And it's not your fault. It's because the superiors obviously aren't giving them enough resources. I'm not there going, oh, you individually, you guys should be grinding at the bottom and making all this stuff happen. Clearly, they are not giving the resources because the Blizzard executives do not care about their community and their history of games. And that is something which they have shown patently in the last decade of their behavior, but especially the last 5 years. They have shown that more and more ever since like Warcraft 3 Reforged was like almost the turning point of turning points. You're like, you're going to release that? Where you could tell they just did not care. And even now with Bobby Kotick gone, Microsoft in charge, things don't necessarily seem to be making a turn for the better. Now, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments.
I think things will make a turn for the better at some point. It's just that lugging a machine as big as Microsoft is just really extremely hard and very, very slow. Even for absolute cash cows like World of Warcraft Classic, things don't seem to be moving along particularly quick. If you can't like somehow get that on board to move a little bit faster, something that has far less priority like StarCraft 2 is not likely to move much quicker either. But like ultimately it's just a resource problem, right? And like this is one of those, in my mind, the way that this works, and I'm probably oversimplifying this, but in my mind, the way that this works is that there's like an executive meeting, and this is going to be like agenda point number 69, somewhere near the very bottom. Do we or do we not want to spend more resources on making our classic games run better? And this is going to be like, okay, it will cost X million a year. We expect there's going to be X output a year. It is also going to give these couple of extra benefits like customer loyalty and all that. Do we want to move forward with that? And for some reason that meeting hasn't happened, or like it is just extremely slow moving. I don't understand why. It can't be that freaking hard. But clearly the priority is just so low. At this point, yeah, it devalues the entirety of the intellectual property that is StarCraft. Right? Like, if you compare what people would have at least mentally valued a name like StarCraft at 10 years ago compared to where it is right now, for people at least that are kind of following along, I think a lot of people are aware that it's not quite at the same level anymore, which is insane, because obviously the name StarCraft is worth an insane amount of money, and it's something that they can make a lot of games for in the future too. And it seems like, at least from like rumors that are popping up on the internet all the time, they seem to be working on like non-strategy game related, but at least like things in the StarCraft world. Like, this is actively hurting. Like, I say this all the time, but like not that long ago, 10 years ago or so, maybe that's a long time in gaming, who knows, but People that I know that were fans of Blizzard games would buy literally every single Blizzard game. Like, whenever Hearthstone came out, whenever Overwatch came out or whatever, people were like, ooh, I'm gonna go check it out, because it's a Blizzard game, and Blizzard games are always excellent. This is a little bit different. So Nexon, this is different. This is a Korean game company that basically got the rights to run the Blizzard IP. They don't have, like, they don't own the intellectual property. They just have the license to make a game. Well, exactly, Mickey. That's the difficult part about it, right? Like, how do you relay priorities for anything? At some point, something becomes too large. Like, things become too big and stuff just moves too slowly. Like, purchasing Activision Blizzard King for Microsoft, they did buy it for literally $69 billion, which is interesting. One of the companies included there, so it's Activision Blizzard King, right? That's the name of the company that they acquired. King is the company behind games like Candy Crush. You can look up how much revenue Candy Crush generates compared to all of the Blizzard games combined. StarCraft 2 is a percentage of a percentage of a percentage. It's extremely irrelevant for basically everything. So that's why I'm a little concerned that things will never really move along particularly quickly. It would be really nice, but it's clearly priority 0, which is very unfortunate.
Different news on this, and who knows? I'd love to be an idiot, look like an idiot, and they come up with a fix next week, and then they're like, oh, here's fixes for all the other bugs in StarCraft as well. But hey, that brings us to the next point. I don't think that's going to happen overnight, and the reason is there's a bunch of other game-breaking problems in StarCraft that have been around for years at this point and just seem to get completely ignored. At the end of the day, right now, if we just can't upload maps, we can't test out mods or anything like that, the StarCraft 2 Pro balance cannot get tested. And I'm sure even if we passed along a whole bunch of changes, the community said, the pros said, hey, we'd love these changes to go through. Here's a bunch of bug fixes. Here's a bunch of balance changes we'd like to go for. I don't think they're going to click live on that until they fix this problem with the exploit either. And that apparently is something that was around years ago, got reported a ton. They never fixed it, according to that post. I'm inclined to believe that Reddit post. I really am. I'd love to be wrong about this stuff. I want someone in the comments to come out and be like, you're wrong. Here's the points. I will retract everything. I'll post another video. I'll friggin' delete this video if I have to, or put a giant pin comment, edit something in there, change the title, do whatever you have to do. But as it is right now, it just doesn't seem like that's the case. So right now, you've got a scene that can't, its pro scene can't do that, but also the massive casual modding scene, the amount of amazing mods that are made, all the hobbyists out there that make the community great. I mean, if that's shut down for an extended period of time, we could lose such a huge part of what makes the StarCraft modding community great. The amount of cool-ass arcade maps and communities that are built up around them, as well as custom campaigns and things that can't be updated right now. I mean, that's just terrible news. Like, if this doesn't get fixed in the next few months, it's going to be a disaster for StarCraft 2. I know everyone's been saying StarCraft's dead for years, decades even, some would say. Like, StarCraft 2 is a dead game. It would be so sadly ironic if it was literally Blizzard just, basically being like, ah, man, a couple kids found an exploit, uploaded some mass shooting videos, some Nazi stuff, and that actually kills StarCraft because they're too incompetent to fix it. That would just be a tragic end for StarCraft 2, where you just see, oh, balance isn't going anywhere. Are we actually not getting any more patches? Does that mean we can't get new maps as well while they're fixing this? Like, I don't know what's going on. I just know that it does not bode well for the future of StarCraft 2, and this has to be a priority right now for fixing this and getting the community back on track. This whole thing, and I think what gets me so riled up, is I get this feeling that the classic games department is kind of looked down on by Blizzard management as, like, janitors. Yep. Like, I often say they're kind of like the guys out of the IT crowd, if you've never watched that TV show. Essentially, couple people in a basement with zero resources who no one cares about. And
they're the old guys, dude. There's a couple of 50-year-old developers that get paid way more money than the rest of the development teams just because they work on the classic games and we don't even really know what they do all of the time. That's probably how the classic games team works. Just like a bunch of dudes that are heavily overworked, and the rest of the company is like, well, they're also there. Like, they have their stuff. They're like wearing StarCraft 2 t-shirts. We don't even know what that game is.
Just thinks, are crap. And I think the people in the classic games department are awesome. Like, they're the people who are actually keeping alive and keeping them
Yeah.
running in the future days, as well as patching and keeping things fresh for all these classic awesome titles. I don't know. For me, it's just weird that a company has so little care for their community,
Yep.
their image, and it feels like they're just trying to tick a box right now on a legal requirement saying, well, these games all have to be online to play. We sold them. We need to technically keep them running.
Yeah, so one of the things that made the acquisition of the Activision Blizzard King thingamajig take so long is because they effectively had to, like, show that they weren't just buying Call of Duty. So, obviously, Microsoft is an absolute monster, right? Like, it is a significant company, right? And they have money to buy Nintendo if they wanted to, right? Which would not be great for anybody involved. They could buy Sony, probably, with the cash that they have. That would not be great if we just end up with, like, one overlord owning literally all of the things. So they had to, like, kind of prove that they're not creating a monopoly and stuff, and it wasn't, like, you know, just for Call of Duty and maybe like a Candy Crush or whatever. So I'm guessing they are obligated to keep games like, for example, StarCraft in there. But I'm also a little concerned that this is indeed like the checkbox ticked. Technically, StarCraft 2 is live. It is in there. We are not willing to risk any negative publicity, because imagine suddenly there are some of those videos going viral, and some of the major news outlets do pick up on the fact that we have, like, Microsoft apparently is okay with having all this imagery inside of their products, right? Like, it's easier to avoid negative press by just never turning uploads of user-generated content back on. And I'm a little afraid that we have kind of, like, reached that point, and we just made the checkbox and that's it. Just full damage control, yeah.
If a little bit of playability starts to get scraped away here or there, it is what it is. All right, guys, anyway, deep breath. I haven't even finished all my points that I got to rant about. Let's talk about the next one. Ladder is broken. Ladder's been broken for 3 years. Maybe longer. Has it been longer? 2021, 2022? Not sure exactly when. Basically, most players, when they get on ladder, at least 50%. I'm not sure of the actual number. I don't have the stats. Blizzard probably does. When they do their placement matches as a brand new player, they get placed in Masters League. Does that sound fun? Because if you've just played StarCraft, your first 5 matches, you've won a few, you've lost a few, or maybe you've lost all of them, you get put in Masters League, you're immediately convinced the system is broken. I do not know how this bug is still in the game. I do not know how this has not been a #1 easily fixable priority for Blizzard. This is literally, I've talked to thousands of players. I have hundreds of people a week ask me in my channels, oh, I got placed in Masters League. I guess StarCraft really is a dead game. Oh, I got placed in Masters League. I'm not going to play anymore because I don't want to play Masters players. I'm not that good. This is such an obvious thing that needs to get fixed. There are so many people where this scares them away from playing StarCraft.
How is this hard, guys? I don't understand. How do we not have just brackets of MMR that may be determined by percentages or whatever? And then if you meet the next bracket, that's when you get promoted into the next league. How hard is it to have league borders be linked to MMR? Is this difficult? It doesn't sound hard in my mind, but I'm probably oversimplifying it. But if you have an MMR system, and say, like, top 3% is master, the 5% below that is diamond, or whatever, right? How hard is it to just link the borders to each of those brackets? It's spaghetti code that will break something on the other end if you change it. Yeah, it's all very old. Yeah, it's legacy code, I guess. So the problem is that initially Blizzard never displayed MMR, and we don't even really know exactly how it worked. So they kind of like stacked all these things on top of one another. And I can imagine that's kind of what messed everything up. But how is this like a bug? So maybe somebody can explain this to somebody who's an idiot like myself. Blizzard basically went AFK, say 5 years ago, from StarCraft 2, right? How is this a bug that started occurring like 2 or 3 years ago? How does this suddenly happen? How does that, like, if you haven't touched it and it worked the entire time, how did it suddenly appear? Unrelated code changes? So they may have changed something. Maybe this coincided with the 2023 thing where they tried to fix the inject bug in the arcade. And maybe this was like subsequent damage? They must have changed something small, like a new season or whatever? Okay. Maybe it's the Y2K bug? Maybe. It's been smoldering ever since 2000.
It's been there for years. It can't be that hard to fix. Come on.
No, it can't be.
Now, I can hear the experienced players out there saying what I always tell people, right? When people say this to me, which is...
It really can't be that fucking hard, man. I know I'm oversimplifying it. But I have met a lot of smart people in the StarCraft world. This is something smart people can fix for sure. Like, this is not rocket science, man. It's very fixable. They just haven't.
Oh, it's just a visual bug. You still get matched with evenly skilled players. Yeah, but the thing is, they don't know that. They don't know that.
But I guess the amount of people that actually can read legacy code or actually, like, understand it is very small, right? Like, it's not like, I got my software engineering degree. I now understand how to... No. That's not, like, you have to find somebody that preferably worked on the game, but they have conveniently let go of all of those people. Now, I'm sure you can learn it, but that means you have to dedicate a lot of time to figuring that sort of thing out. And I guess they're not given any time, so it's easier to just do balance changes and whatnot to Heroes of the Storm, right? Am I starting to get the hang of this? It's just a money thing. Plenty of people could fix it, but nobody wants to pay for it.
That come to my channel or in the community and ask, they'll find out. But how many just go, oh, I'm in Masters League, never playing again, and never go to a Twitch chat or a YouTube comment section and ask that question and find out, oh, this is just a visual bug? Because what is our advice? I give people a link to a website that has the frigging...
I just ignore people that say it now because I don't know what to say.
I'm like, oh, well, you're not going to get promotion screens. You're not going to get the feeling of like leveling up. Instead, you need to track your MMR here. And when you get from 28, 27 to 20, when you get from there to 28, 28, guess what? You're in Platinum 2 now. And you should
we need to start a GoFundMe page for Microsoft. So they can... Bro, you know the worst part about it? I know for a fact that there is somebody in the StarCraft community, possibly watching this right now, that is capable and willing to fix this just out of the goodness of their own heart and the love of the game. They're willing to put in the work and probably do it for free. But even if they offer that, it won't be accepted.
On the back, and you can go Plat 2 promotion SC2 YouTube. Maybe there's an animation video. You can go look up an animation video. And you can be like, yeah, I'm in Platinum. Woo! Yeah! Because the game doesn't even give you promotion screens anymore. That's ridiculous because you're already in Masters League. So it's so ridiculous. You got to do all this extra work. You got to go in the community, open a web page, and give yourself a pat on the back, and I don't know, get like a party popper or something, blow some streamers in the air whenever you level up. It's ridiculous. All right, so that's one of the biggest ones because I truly feel every returning player runs into this, as well as a lot of new players, and turning them off is like the biggest thing.
I wonder if this is even like... I'm wondering if like the executives that are in charge of Xbox, like say the Phil Spencers of this world, are they even remotely aware of these sort of issues? You would imagine they are. But maybe they're just, maybe nobody knows.
Kills a game, right? You need new players just coming in, having fun, and casual players to make a game a good community and make it so it's not just an elite bunch of like 100 people in a hardcore community just like fighting each other on repeat, and it becomes super in-groupy and weird for outsiders to get involved in. Now the next one is easily fixable bugs that come through.
Yeah, we're gonna get StarCraft inbreeding at this rate, dude. It's already happening, man. At this point, there's nobody. It's just the old guys still going around. We're like one of the groups that just kind of exist on our own, and like we're scaring out every outsider, so we're just kind of all doing... Yeah, it's a bit of a mess.
It's crazy that so many people hate on the Balance Council for like small changes, and there's even a movement of people like, don't change anything. Just leave the game as it is. Don't change anything. I'm sick of these bugs. But this exists for a very good reason. People are saying this because There are basic bugs. In 2023, the Colossus had bonus range. It had an extra range. It did 7 instead of 6 range. Protoss was kind of weak at the time. So there's people like, maybe we should just keep this. But it was pretty heinous. It was ridiculous.
It was
and it was there for like 3 months before they fixed it. Likewise, right now, the Cyclone cooldowns.
Cyclone is overbugged. Yep.
These bugs, and they just do not fix them in a timely fashion.
The Cyclone lock-on is about 33% faster than it's supposed to be. Why? Like, the cooldown of it is too quick. Why?
Occasionally, they get a hot fix out, and you're like, whoa, they fixed it within a month. One change, but it doesn't seem consistent at all. There needs to be something in the schedule of the classic games department at Blizzard to say, when we release a patch, there will be bugs, because there were, even when there was a full-time dev team working full-time and doing all this testing, in-house testing for months, they'd bring out a balance change, and there would always be bugs, so many of them, but the difference was they'd actually release a follow-up like a week or so later that would fix that, and that is what needs to be. If you're releasing a patch, have resources allocated to release a hotfix patch 3 weeks later, a month later, whatever it is. Usually within a week, we know what most of the bugs are, but 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month if you want to be safe.
How hard? How hard is it to learn legacy code? Like, say you go from understanding all modern coding languages. How long would it, for you guys in the chat that do this sort of thing for a living, how long would it take for you to understand 90% of it? 3 to 6 months? A year, maybe? Okay. It depends. Right, I get that. Well, you can kind of estimate better than I can, right? For a game like StarCraft. It would take months. Client code, 3 months. Server, around 6. 6 months to a year. 6 months is low. Okay. Gotcha.
And then we know, oh, that's all going to get fixed on this day. And you know what that gives? It gives consistency. It lets people in the scene know what's going to happen. And it actually doesn't mean right now we have 7 months with the Cyclone locking on twice as fast as it should. It locks on, kills a unit. Oh, lock-on's ready again. It's actually kind of interesting because I'm like, oh, it's cool we're seeing mech more than normal. Like, there's upsides to these unintended things, but it doesn't feel fair. You've got guys like Solar on Twitter losing games in GSL and other people and going, come on, man, like how are we playing, you know, our pro careers where random bug numbers that get through in a patch that aren't meant to be happened, it just inexplicably gets in there and then it just won't get fixed sometimes for up to a year. That feels terrible. And this has to get fixed. So don't get me wrong. I get right now fixing people putting...
So it's very possible that, like, the people that do work at the classic games team, from what I understand, occasionally fix bugs, but they also don't fully understand why the bug is fixed. So maybe they're like, even like almost a little bit afraid to touch the game because they might mess things up further and have nobody to fix it. Because I highly doubt they have been given, you know, a half year of their time to learn the ins and outs of all of the details. And this, like, arcade injection situation seems rather complex. Like, you need to have a deep understanding of the code.
Terrible videos in StarCraft is of high importance, but you need to fix that Masters bug. Like, it needs to be the highest priority out of anything else before you even change other balance changes. That has to happen right now. And if that's not already on the list of the wall, maybe there's some technical issue. Probably they don't know how the ladder system works. I'm going to go out on a limb.
Yeah.
No one in the classic games department knows how the StarCraft ladder works. To them, it's an enigma. It's written in some coding language they don't understand because no one who worked on StarCraft still works at Blizzard. And they're just kind of like, oh, it's a black box. Or they just don't have the time. They haven't even looked at it because they don't even have time to know what their priorities are because they're working on so many projects.
So, like, all of the people that used to do the coding at StarCraft 2, right, for StarCraft 2, they, like, this is dozens of people, but they have all moved on to other things. None of them, as far as I know, still work at Blizzard. I guess that's the thing, right? Like, you would have to somehow bring them back if you want to, but they, yeah, maybe they don't care. Like, this only becomes an issue if people know that it's an issue, right? Like, there's a good chance that a lot of these very delicate problems don't even reach the higher ups. Yeah.
Point is, it's not my problem.
Yeah, bringing them back is not an option. Yeah.
Care what your issue is. This is Blizzard's problem. Blizzard run your games correctly, stop having game-breaking bugs. At what point are you guys like, can you just give us LAN servers if we just run an older version of the game or something? Because if you're not going to give us that because you're afraid of us taking your IP, you have a bare minimum responsibility to actually give us a consistent product. And maybe legally you can't get in trouble for that. Maybe it's just going to make your image look terrible if you keep on refusing to maintain your games and communities, throw them under the bus, and just refuse to fix basic things in your games. To me, I'm riled up because it feels like Blizzard paid attention for the first time ever because, it looks bad. There's mass shooting videos. And then they've just kind of said, yeah, you guys should fix that. But, we can put a Band-Aid on it and just stop people uploading to Arcade and just shut down the community for now. Are they actually diverting more resources to fixing this issue?
I don't think they are.
We don't know. They might just go, as long as we stop people uploading, we can't have a PR disaster. We don't need to actually fix the issue. We can just shut down this whole part of our hardcore community and player base.
This is kind of like when they introduced the Mothership Core, dude. Rather than make the Protoss early game more reliable in the early game, they just kind of smacked a Band-Aid on it by introducing the Mothership Core. And then at some point they realized the Mothership Core is stupid. Maybe we should actually just like remove it and make Protoss early game better. There's a lot of Band-Aid related issues which are just very frustrating.
And not care anymore. And that for me, it just pisses me off no end. And it makes me, I already feel like you play Warcraft 2 Remastered. I've already got huge qualms about giving Blizzard a single cent. Like it's really hard to give them any more of my dollars ever again with the way they're acting as a company.
Pick, how much money do you think you have generated for Blizzard making StarCraft related content on the internet? I have no idea, but I've got a lot of people that have watched my content and that may have picked up StarCraft 2 along the way because of it. Let's not think about that.
Man, I'm just super triggered. Sorry for being a bit hyperbolic, guys. I just got to rant here and let it all out. And I'm already feeling a little bit better just by shouting at my camera. All right, anyways, I think I've ranted enough. I probably missed something, but who cares? I had this whole plan of like, man, we're going to spend like 2 weeks testing this patch plan, 2 weeks testing that. We're going to have all these mods. And then that arcade patch happened 2 months ago. And I'm just like, well, I can't do anything. I've just been waiting for it to get fixed and sitting here like, Hearthstone released that cool idea of changes. I really like some of his ideas. I think it's worth talking about. Like I said, I'd be willing to gamble on some of those changes. But I also have these other cool ideas that are more dangerous and would definitely have more problem points. And they would make bigger problems in StarCraft. But I also think they'd give me a lot more things to get excited about with some of these like crazy patch change ideas.
So surely, guys, with the 15-year anniversary coming up in about a month or so, surely they're not going to forget about StarCraft 2, right? Like, there's no way that they're going to forget about StarCraft 2 and its 15-year anniversary, right? I mean, they just did this, like, big promotion for Heroes of the Storm. Like, out of nowhere. Because Heroes of the Storm turned out to be, like, a certain amount of years old. I don't remember exactly anymore how much. But when is this? Celebrate 10 years of Heroes of the Storm. Heroes are free. Everyone who logs in will receive 2 brand new portraits. Like, they're not just gonna let a 15-year anniversary for a game like StarCraft 2 slide. Right? Or maybe they will. Who knows? Yeah, it's rough. I feel like all of this has been very negative, guys. And ultimately, the reason why people are negative about it is because they care. Because StarCraft 2 is such a fantastic game. Even though it's 15 years old, nothing has surpassed it yet, which is pretty insane when you think about it. Yeah, give everybody that logs into StarCraft 2 the loco voice pack. That sounds like a great idea. I love that. What a great plan. I don't know. I just kind of hope that at some point, some of the resources can be allocated again to StarCraft 2, and that at some point we might get some sort of development for the game again. It's not entirely unheard of because they did do that with, for example, Age of Empires 2. Like, Age of Empires 2 once more has active development for it. Like, Age of Empires 2 once more is getting updates and stuff, which is kind of crazy. And this is also owned by Microsoft, right? Like, Microsoft also owns the Age of Empires IP. And it seems that the CEO of Xbox, the head of gaming at Microsoft, is a fan of StarCraft. Like, he's done a whole load of, like, speeches and stuff wearing at least, like, a StarCraft shirt. Like, he talked more about StarCraft than anybody at Blizzard did in any speeches for, you know, for a long... Maybe. I don't know, dude.